Today on All Sports Central, we'll be going over our next 2020 schedule preview of this offseason, and it's going to be over the Alabama Crimson Tide. And this was a team that overall, I think we all can say, disappointed a little bit in the 2019 season. Of course, they ended up going 11-2, which is overall a great record for any team, for that matter. But of course, for Alabama, considering they had all of that talent and so much potential to make it to the College Football Playoff, it was a little bit of a disappointment, but overall, once again, still a great season. Since November, they've played 5 games. They lost to LSU, of course, on November 9th. That was kind of the turning point of the season. They lost there 41-46. They did beat Mississippi State on the road 38-7, beat Western Carolina 66-3. And then they lost to Auburn on the last week of the regular season. That was a really tough game there, 45-46. And overall, that game right there is kind of what ruined Alabama's chances of making it to the College Football Playoff. But nonetheless, they did beat Michigan in the Citrus Bowl 35-16. So they did get a pretty decent bowl win. As for the trend through the season, through September and October, this team went 8-0, and their 2 losses came during November in the postseason. Well, it'd be only November because they lost to LSU and Auburn within a couple weeks of each other. But nonetheless, once again, still a great season for Alabama. Here are a few key points for Alabama going into this offseason and the 2020 season. Quarterback Tua Tagovailoa did declare for the NFL draft, so he will not be with this team next season. But Mac Jones, a player who started for a good chunk of the season at quarterback, he will be returning. He had 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions this season. So overall, I don't think he's going to disappoint next year. If he can just get more touchdowns, lower the interception rate, then that would be really good for him. But of course, for Tua, he's going to be very tough to replace. He put up 2,800 yards in the time that he was quarterback, 33 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions this season. So that touchdown-interception ratio is really good, 33-3. That is a very impressive ratio there. Najee Harris will return for his senior season at running back. He had over 1,500 yards himself at the running back position last season. Also 20 touchdowns added to that. The top wide receiver for this team, Devontae Smith, will return as well. So that is huge. He had over 1,200 yards and 14 touchdowns. However, their second wide receiver, and Jerry Jeudy, will be gone next season. He had over 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns as well. So it's good that they're returning their top wide receiver in Smith, but losing their second wide receiver in Jerry Jeudy, that's going to be a tough one to replace. They also lose their third wide receiver too, Henry Ruggs III. He had just over 800 yards and 8 touchdowns as well. So losing their second and third wide receivers will be a bit of a concern for this team. But once again, expect Devontae Smith to get a lot of attention going into next season. I mean, for him to have over 1,200 yards and being able to return, it's also really helpful to this team to have him return, because I mean, this team is losing a lot to the NFL draft, that is for sure. They do lose 2 offensive linemen, a defensive end, a linebacker, and also 3 in the secondary. So this defense is obviously taking hits. They've got 5 starters, they're losing 5 starters on the defense after this 2019 season. But I mean, this offense is also taking hits, not going to lie. I mean, losing 2 offensive linemen is going to be tough to replace as well. But nonetheless, will there be improvement in 2020? And I think that's going to be a big question going into this season for Alabama. And really, I think what the results for this team is going to wrap around is how Mac Jones does. If Mac Jones does well, he puts up a lot of yardage, and also he lowers his interception ratio. I think that honestly, this Alabama team could easily get back up to 10, maybe even 11 wins. But overall, it's going to be, I think with all the losses in the wide receiver position, and especially on defense too, it's going to be a bit of a tougher season for Alabama next year. Looking at their schedule for the first time this offseason, you start off the season on September 5th against USC in a neutral location. I think they'll end up being a win, but I'm not going to be predicting anything right here. We will be doing that in the summer. You do face Georgia State and then Georgia in 2 consecutive weeks, so this is an odd start to the season for Alabama. Of course, you played 2 Power 5 conference teams within your first 3 games, so that's kind of a rare occasion there. Then you got Kent State, easy in there, and then you go on the road for Ole Miss and Arkansas. You're at home for Mississippi State, then another 2 road games within 3 weeks with Tennessee and LSU. And then you finish off the season with 3 games at home with UT Martin, Texas A&M, and Auburn. So that's good that you get 3 games at home to finish off the season. But nonetheless, you got a really big road schedule through October and early parts of November. I mean, you got 4 out of 5 games through October and the early parts of November that are on the road. So that'll be a tougher part of the season, no doubt. But here's kind of what I'm expecting. And these three are just your projected wins. These are the ones that I think are the most obvious wins for Alabama going into next season. And I would also put projected losses up there, but I'm not projecting any losses for Alabama at this point right now. But my record estimation for Alabama is 9-3 to 11-1. I think they're going to hang right around 9-11 wins once again. I don't think they're going to go undefeated in the regular season, but overall I think they'll be quite possibly the SEC West champions. I mean, they've got a very high chance of doing that, in my opinion. I mean, they've got a lot of potential with Mac Jones especially. And of course, once again, it's going to really revolve around him. If he can play well, and if he can play well, and also running back Najee Harris can also have a good season as well, that could be huge for this team as far as going into next season. But once again, I mean, they also have got a tough road schedule with Tennessee and LSU in 2 consecutive games. They could get a little bit interesting, of course. I think Tennessee is going to be a bit of a better team next season. I think that, they're returning a lot of talent, and I'll be going over their preview in a week or so. But, I think Tennessee is going to be a very improved team. And then LSU, of course, I think they're going to hang right around where they were this season. So, 2 very tough games there. But once again, this is kind of what I'm expecting. I think you're going to get to 9 or 11 wins going into next season. Let me know your thoughts, though, on Alabama in the comments below. Of course, once again, it is very early on. We're only in the late parts of January right now, and we will be going over each one of these teams that we schedule preview once again in the summer for our actual predictions. So, be sure to stay tuned for that. Thank you guys all for watching, though, once again. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central, and I will see you all later.